it's stupidity.
Yeah. Right.
But to the folks that really want to live right, it's power.
Right. Yeah.
You remember the muscle cars back in the day? 329s, 454s. I used to like those muscle cars. And man, they had a lot of power. I used to have a 1975 Cadillac Coupe de Ville. Big old boat. It's probably longer than this whole room. Had a 500 engine in it. That's a lot of power. You know, cars are measured on horsepower. And so when you say this got 300 horses in it, they don't even make cars with 300 horses anymore, I don't think. And I think the Charger and stuff like that maybe have them, but none of the cars anymore have that. But you want a car with some power, right? How many want to take off at the stoplight and go slow? I rented one day we were back east and I rented a car and they said, you know how you rent cars and they don't tell you what kind of car you're going to get because you're cheap like me. So they just say, you know, for this price, we're going to give you a car or equivalent. And so they gave me a Prius one time. You ever seen a Prius? A Prius is the car. As a matter of fact, I couldn't leave the garage there. The lady had to come up and tell me how to go because I pressed on it. I tried to start it, and then she started it, and then it wouldn't go. And I said, "What's going on?" She said, "The engine died." She said, "We have to press the gas." Did you know on a Prius, when you stop at a stop sign and save fuel, the engine goes off? I didn't know that. Anyway, so don't get a Prius if you want power. Amen. So I got my wife a car one time, and it was one like we have now, but it had a 4-cylinder in it. And she tried to get on fuel and everything, but then she got back in the Jeep Cherokee that I had, and she said, "Man, this thing's got power. I don't want a car with no power in it." So I got her one with a little bigger engine, V6. Amen, but that's what the Bible says, that the preaching of them that perish is foolishness, but to us who saved, church folks, people that's trying to live for God and communicate with God, is power.
Yes. Right.
Preaching is power.
Right.
That's how you get energy. Amen. So it says, "For it is written," verse 19, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, "I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and I will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent." People that are real smart in the world, look at verse 20. "Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this world? Has not God made foolishness the wisdom of this world?" Look at the smartest people that ever lived. Sigmund Freud. He was brilliant in his day, but if psychologists read his stuff now, they say the guy was cuckoo. He would never make it. Man, you ever seen Albert Einstein? He was the smartest man that lived, they said, one of the smartest. But I mean, you look at the guy, you said you wouldn't let your kids you wouldn't let him babysit your kids, right? Kind of cuckoo like. He was a smart man. I mean, what Einstein did was split an atom. His theory of relativity, E equals mc squared. Energy is mass. He said, man, if you get energy compacted, that'll make massive movement with energy. And so he split an atom, and you guys know the story, the atom bomb, atomic bomb.
Yeah.
When they tested the atomic bomb, they had no idea what was going to happen because they had never split an atom before. So they went out to a lot of the people that go to church in La Grande, to their islands, out Bikini Island and stuff. A lot of those people over there still have problems now with cancer and such because they tested the nuclear weapons over there. Sister Lynn has been over there. And you see the people, a lot of them have bad face, and it just goes through generations. It's just bad. But anyway, Einstein, he said, we're going to split this atom, and so the military got involved. And the first explosion that they had was so big, I mean, they didn't realize how powerful it was going to be. Amen. And so what I'm saying is that if you're saved and you want to be saved, and you want to live right, the preaching of the word is powerful.
Right.
You're going to get some serious injury. Look what it says. "For the Jews require a sign." Jewish people, not too many Jews in the apostolic church. Greeks seek after wisdom. They're real smart. The Greeks was the philosophers, Plato, Socrates, and all those. Those are Greeks. We preach Christ crucified unto Jews as a stumbling block. They said, we don't your Savior died, our Messiah doesn't die. That's why they rejected Jesus. That's a stumbling block for them. To the Greeks is foolishness. But unto them which are called, both Jews and Greek, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God.
Yes.
Jesus Christ is our power and it's our smarts.
Come on. That's right.
Jesus Christ is the wisdom of God.
That's right.
Amen. So, I want you to know that God uses a preacher like Pastor McMillan. He uses him, other ministers in the church, to speak to you. You ever been in church and the preacher got to preaching and you said, man, is he the mailman? Like he's been looking at my mail to see that I got the electric bill came and the credit people were coming after me, you know, the collection agency, you know, the preacher, sometimes he gets up to preach and you say, wow, how does he know this?
Right.
Well, because God uses a preacher
right.
to communicate with you.
Amen.
That's right.
Amen. Clap your hands to the Lord. We don't need clap. So you can run from God, what I'm preaching about this morning, but you can't hide from God.
That's right.
How many remember Saddam Hussein?
Amen.
Kind of a crazy man, but brilliant in that he could run a country. And I mean, a lot of these leaders, political leaders, world leaders, dictators, they're really smart people. They know how to move people. I mean, anybody like the South Korean leader Kim, he's this abject poverty there in North Korea. And then he lives in a castle. And they look at the situation and the people love him. They call him the great emperor and the holy one. That's some power of leading somebody.
Right.
And so a lot of leaders choose it to manipulate people. But God doesn't do that. Amen. So he was a leader that, as you know, when we started after the 9/11 situation, when the towers fell, that Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, who were claiming responsibility, run on the run.
Right.
And they searched for him for years and years. Saddam Hussein, they finally found him underground, and Great Babylon fell because you can't hide from God.
Right.
I'm not saying that the United States was God, but just giving you some physical examples. Osama bin Laden, remember him? Osama bin Laden was fighting a war. He died. They killed him eventually, but he was fighting a war that was unwinnable. You can't win a war where you just kill people, innocent people, for no reason. And just eventually that's going to come back to you. So he ran and ran. Pretty soon they said $25 million, and you know, you can have loyalty all you want, but somebody ratted him out for $25 million. Amen. I never used to talk too much, but somebody said, we're looking for Brother Song, and we got $5 million. If you can tell us where he's at, then praise the Lord. I'll come pray for you and come have a Bible study while you're in prison, all right? Help your family. Man, because you can't hide from a lot of things. How many remember the story of Jonah?
Amen.
Jonah, in Jonah chapter 1, you don't have to turn it, we'll just read a little bit here. It says, now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness has come upon me, come up before me. Amen. Go. This is what God said. He called Jonah. God called a specific person to a specific place for a specific reason.
Right.
Right.
God is really specific.
Yes.
I said, God doesn't say, you know, when I first came to God, I was in college. My wife went to the Apostolic Church as a younger girl at 17. And so when we started thinking about God, we got to go to church. Then she said, well, we need to go to this Apostolic One God Pentecostal church. She said, we need to go there. And I said, oh, it doesn't matter where you go. Just as long as you go to church somewhere, you're okay. And so God's real specific.
Right.
Just any old thing won't do.
Right.
Amen.
Right.
Amen. God is very clear, you know. I mean, the earth is tilted at a certain angle.
Yep.
If we were closer to the sun, we'd burn. If we were further away, we'd freeze.
Come on. That's right.
God's real specific.
Yes.
Amen. He puts I mean, they say some of the things going on in the outer space is just phenomenal. How everything just doesn't blow up.
Yeah.
Because God's in control. And He's real specific. And God pays attention to details.
Amen.
Right.
A lot of people don't pay attention to that.
Right.
Amen. A lot of people just build a house and they say, oh, it's a half inch off over here. It's okay. How many builders? How many done construction? If you so you just poured footing and you got your stem wall up and it's a quarter of an inch off over here on this corner and a half inch off over here. By the time you build that house,
Come on.
it's going to look like it's not going to look good.
Come on.
God's way more specific than that.
That's
Amen.
right.
That's right.
Every little detail.
Right.
Right.
Why did God do that? I don't know. I don't know why God pays so much attention to detail. But think about your life. Think about how hard-headed you were.
Right.
Think about how bad attitude you had.
Amen. That's right.
It was complex.
That's right.
Your situation was very complex.
Amen.
But God said, you know what? I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix that lady. I'm going to fix that. Amen. There's no accidents. Amen. I said there's no accident.
Right.
Right.
Amen. I mean, there's all kinds of religions in the world, but it's just God calls you to a certain place. And He called Jonah. And Jonah was a prophet. Jonah was a prophet, and his predecessors, the guys that came before him, was great prophets like Elijah, who got carried away in a chariot of fire, and Elisha, who, I mean, man, had all kinds of miracles. And Jonah was just in that line. So he followed those guys, and he was a prophet in Israel, and he started.